Have you ever pulled up a garlic plant at harvest time, only to find a tiny bulb with small cloves instead of the large, beautiful heads you were hoping for? You're not alone. Many gardeners assume garlic simply grows on its own, but the truth is that producing huge, flavorful bulbs depends on a series of important steps throughout the growing season. The good news is that growing giant garlic isn't difficult. You don't need expensive fertilizers, complicated equipment, or years of experience. In fact, a few proven techniques can dramatically increase your harvest, improve flavor, and help your garlic store for many months after harvest. In today's video, I'll show you exactly how experienced gardeners consistently grow large garlic bulbs year after year. We'll cover everything from choosing the right cloves to planting, depth, watering, feeding, and the simple mistakes that secretly keep garlic small. If you enjoy practical gardening tips that actually work, be sure to subscribe and let's get started. The first secret to huge garlic bulbs begins long before planting. It starts with selecting the right planting material. Many beginners make the mistake of planting garlic purchased from the grocery store. While this sometimes works, supermarket garlic is often treated to prevent sprouting or comes from climates very different from your own. Even if it grows, the bulbs are usually much smaller than expected. Instead, buy seed garlic from a reputable local grower or a trusted garden supplier. Seed garlic is selected specifically for planting and is generally healthier, more vigorous, and better adapted to your growing region. Another important choice is deciding between hardneck and softneck garlic. Hardneck varieties usually produce fewer cloves, but each clove grows much larger. They also tend to have richer, more complex flavors and perform especially well in colder climates. One bonus is that they produce garlic scapes later in the season, which are delicious and indicate that bulb formation has begun. Softneck garlic typically produces more cloves per bulb and stores exceptionally well, often lasting 8 to 10 months. It performs better in warmer climates and is commonly braided for storage. Choosing the right variety for your local climate immediately gives you an advantage before you even touch the soil. Now let's talk about one of the biggest factors affecting bulb size, the cloves themselves. Always plant the biggest cloves from the healthiest bulbs. This is one gardening rule that consistently proves true. Large cloves contain more stored energy, giving young plants a stronger start. Strong plants produce more leaves, and more leaves mean more photosynthesis. Since every healthy green leaf feeds the developing bulb underground, larger cloves usually become larger bulbs. Avoid planting tiny inner cloves or damaged cloves with cuts, mold, or soft spots. They're far less likely to produce impressive harvests. The next secret lies beneath your feet. Garlic absolutely loves loose, fertile, well-drained soil. Heavy clay is one of garlic's biggest enemies because compacted soil physically restricts bulb expansion. Even perfectly healthy plants can end up producing disappointingly small bulbs if they don't have room to grow. Before planting, loosen the soil to at least 8 to 10 inches deep. If your soil feels sticky after rain or forms hard clumps when dry, improve it by adding generous amounts of finished compost. Compost not only feeds the plants gradually but also improves drainage and creates countless tiny air spaces that roots need. If your soil is sandy, compost is equally valuable because it helps retain moisture while still allowing excess water to drain away. Garlic dislikes standing water almost as much as drought. Ideally, your soil should feel like a wrung-out sponge, moist but never soggy. Soil pH also matters more than many gardeners realize. Garlic grows best in slightly acidic to neutral soil, generally between pH 6.5 and 7.0. If your soil is extremely acidic, nutrients become harder for the plants to absorb, slowing growth. A simple soil test can reveal your pH and nutrient levels before planting, allowing you to make adjustments early instead of guessing later. Now comes planting time. Timing depends largely on where you live, but in most regions garlic is planted in autumn. The goal is to allow roots to establish before winter while preventing excessive leaf growth. Typically, planting occurs about 4 to 6 weeks before the ground freezes solid. This gives cloves enough time to develop strong root systems that fuel explosive spring growth. When separating bulbs into cloves, wait until just before planting. Leaving cloves attached until planting day helps protect them from drying out. As you separate them, keep the papery skins intact whenever possible. These protective layers help defend the cloves against diseases and moisture loss. Plant each clove with the pointed tip facing upward. It sounds obvious, but surprisingly many new gardeners accidentally plant cloves upside down. Although garlic often manages to correct itself, the extra energy spent bending upward slows early growth and can reduce final bulb size. Depth is another key detail. Plant cloves about 2 inches deep in mild climates and 3 to 4 inches deep in colder areas where freezing temperatures are common. Proper depth protects cloves from winter temperature swings while encouraging stable root development. Spacing is equally important. Crowded garlic competes for nutrients, sunlight, moisture, and underground space. For truly large bulbs, plant cloves about 6 inches apart in rows spaced roughly 12 inches apart. While squeezing in extra plants may seem like a good way to increase yield, overcrowding usually results in dozens of undersized bulbs instead of fewer but much larger ones. Finally, after planting, water thoroughly. This first watering settles the soil around the cloves, removes air pockets, and encourages rapid root development before winter arrives. At this stage, resist the temptation to fertilize heavily. The cloves already contain plenty of stored energy for initial growth. Excess nitrogen in late autumn may encourage too much leafy growth before winter, leaving plants more vulnerable to cold damage. Instead, let the roots quietly establish themselves beneath the soil while nature prepares them for the growing season ahead. As winter fades and temperatures begin to rise, your garlic will wake up and start growing rapidly. This is the stage that determines whether you'll harvest average bulbs or truly impressive ones. The plants now need consistent care, but the secret is giving them exactly what they need without overdoing it. Let's begin with watering, because this is where many gardeners unknowingly reduce the size of their harvest. Garlic likes consistent moisture, especially during the period when leaves are actively growing. Every healthy green leaf acts like a solar panel, producing energy that is stored inside the developing bulb underground. If the soil repeatedly dries out during this stage, growth slows, and the bulbs often remain much smaller than they could have been. Aim to keep the soil evenly moist rather than soaking wet. A good rule is to water deeply, instead of watering lightly every day. Deep watering encourages roots to grow farther into the soil, making plants stronger and more drought tolerant. Depending on your climate, garlic usually needs about 1 inch of water per week, including rainfall. During hot or windy weather, you may need to water a little more often, while rainy periods may require no additional watering at all. One simple trick is to check the soil with your finger. If the top inch feels dry, it's usually time to water. If it's still moist, wait another day or two. Remember, garlic dislikes extremes. Long dry spells stress the plants, but constantly wet soil can cause root rot and fungal diseases. Now let's talk about feeding your garlic. Although garlic doesn't require constant fertilizing, it does benefit from nutrients at the right time. Early in spring, as new leaves begin growing, garlic appreciates nitrogen. Nitrogen encourages vigorous leaf growth, and as we've already mentioned, more healthy leaves usually translate into larger bulbs later in the season. Many experienced gardeners apply compost in early spring or use an organic fertilizer that's slightly higher in nitrogen. Fish emulsion, blood meal, feather meal, or composted poultry manure are all popular choices, depending on what's available in your area. The important thing isn't applying huge amounts of fertilizer, it's applying moderate amounts at the correct stage. Too much nitrogen later in the season can actually delay bulb development. Instead of directing energy into the bulb, the plant continues producing lush green leaves. Once bulb formation begins, usually in late spring, reduce or stop nitrogen-rich fertilizers altogether. At this point, the garlic's priority should shift from producing leaves to building large, dense bulbs underground. Another incredibly valuable technique is mulching. Many gardeners underestimate how much mulch helps garlic. A 2 to 4 inch layer of clean straw, shredded leaves, or untreated grass clippings provides several important benefits. First, mulch conserves soil moisture, meaning you'll spend less time watering. Second, it keeps soil temperatures more stable during changing spring weather. Third, it greatly reduces weed growth. Weeds compete directly with garlic for nutrients, sunlight, and water. Even small weeds can reduce bulb size if left unchecked throughout the season. If weeds do appear, remove them carefully by hand. Garlic roots grow relatively close to the soil surface, so aggressive hoeing can accidentally damage them. Speaking of roots, avoid walking between garlic rows whenever possible. Compacted soil restricts root growth and limits oxygen availability underground. Simply creating designated paths through your garden helps keep the growing area loose and healthy. Now let's discuss one mistake that surprises many beginners. Some gardeners remove garlic leaves because they think it helps bulbs grow larger. It doesn't. Every green leaf contributes energy through photosynthesis. Damaged or removed leaves reduce the plant's ability to feed the bulb. Unless leaves are diseased or completely dead, leave them alone. Healthy foliage equals healthy bulbs. Let's move on to pests. Fortunately, garlic naturally repels many insects thanks to its strong sulfur compounds. However, it's not completely immune to problems. Onion thrips are among the most common pests affecting garlic. These tiny insects feed on leaf tissue, causing silvery streaks and weakening the plants. Regularly inspect the leaves, especially during warm, dry weather. Catching problems early makes them much easier to control. Encouraging beneficial insects like ladybugs and lacewings can naturally reduce pest populations. Strong sprays of water may also help knock small numbers of thrips off the plants before infestations become serious. Now for diseases. The biggest disease problems usually develop when moisture remains on the leaves for long periods or when plants are overcrowded. Rust appears as small orange spots on the leaves. White rot attacks the roots and bulbs, often causing plants to wilt suddenly. Fungal diseases spread much more easily in gardens where garlic or onions are planted in the same location year after year. That's why crop rotation is so important. Try not to grow garlic, onions, shallots, or leeks in the same bed for at least 3 to 4 years. This simple practice dramatically reduces disease pressure and helps maintain healthier soil. Good air circulation is another powerful defense. Proper spacing allows leaves to dry more quickly after rain or morning dew, making fungal infections less likely. Another common question gardeners ask is whether garlic should receive full sun. The answer is absolutely yes. Garlic performs best with at least 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight every day. More sunlight means more photosynthesis. More photosynthesis means more energy stored inside the bulb. Garlic planted in partial shade often develops beautiful leaves but disappointingly small bulbs. As the season progresses, you'll notice the lower leaves beginning to dry naturally. Don't panic. It's perfectly normal for older leaves to die off gradually while new growth continues above them. What matters is that the upper leaves remain healthy, green, and vigorous. Here's another helpful tip that experienced growers swear by. Avoid stressing your garlic with sudden changes. Large swings between extremely dry and overly wet soil can cause uneven bulb development. Keeping moisture, nutrition, and growing conditions as consistent as possible helps produce uniform, high-quality harvests. And finally, patience. Garlic grows slowly compared to many garden vegetables. During spring, most of the Exciting work is happening underground, where the bulbs are quietly expanding week after week. The temptation to dig one up early is understandable, but resist it. Every extra week of healthy growth before harvest can make a noticeable difference in bulb size. Now we've reached the stage that can make the difference between good garlic and truly exceptional garlic. Even if you've done everything right so far, a few simple decisions during the final weeks of the season will determine just how large your bulbs become. If you're growing hardneck garlic, you'll soon notice something unusual happening. A thick green stalk will emerge from the center of the plant and begin curling into loops. This is called a garlic scape. Many new gardeners leave scapes on the plant because they look interesting. But if your goal is the biggest possible bulbs, removing them is one of the smartest things you can do. The scape is the plant's flower stalk. If left in place, the garlic spends valuable energy producing flowers and seeds instead of directing that energy into the bulb underground. As soon as the scape forms one full curl, use clean scissors or simply snap it off with your fingers. The earlier you remove it without cutting the leaves, the more energy the plant can devote to bulb growth. Research and experienced growers alike have found that removing scapes can noticeably increase bulb size, making this one of the easiest ways to improve your harvest. And don't throw the scapes away. They're completely edible and have a mild garlic flavor. You can chop them into salads, blend them into pesto, stir-fry them with vegetables, add them to soups, or grill them with olive oil and a little salt. Many gardeners look forward to garlic scape season almost as much as the garlic harvest itself. As summer approaches, you'll also need to change your watering routine. This is another point where many gardeners make a costly mistake. When the bulbs are nearly mature, continuing to water heavily can shorten storage life and increase the risk of rot. About 2 to 3 weeks before harvest, gradually stop watering altogether. Allowing the soil to dry helps the outer wrappers become firm and papery, which protects the bulbs during curing and long-term storage. So, how do you know when garlic is ready to harvest? Timing is everything. Harvest too early, and the bulbs won't have reached their full size. Harvest too late, and the protective wrappers may split apart, exposing the cloves. Split bulbs don't store nearly as well and are more vulnerable to disease. Instead of watching the calendar, watch the leaves. A healthy garlic plant usually produces several leaves. Each green leaf corresponds to one protective wrapper surrounding the bulb. When the bottom third to half of the leaves have turned brown while the upper leaves remain green, it's usually the perfect harvest window. This balance means the bulb has matured while still retaining enough outer wrappers for excellent storage. To harvest, never pull the garlic straight out of the ground. Even if the soil feels loose, pulling by the stem can damage or separate the bulb. Instead, use a garden fork or shovel several inches away from the plant to gently loosen the soil. Lift the bulb carefully, shake off excess dirt with your hands, and avoid banging the bulbs together. Freshly harvested garlic bruises surprisingly easily, and hidden damage often leads to poor storage later. Once harvested, resist another common temptation. Don't wash the bulbs. Leave the roots, stems, and outer skins attached. Instead, gently brush away loose soil and move the garlic to a warm, dry, shaded location with excellent air circulation. A covered porch, garage, shed, or well-ventilated barn works perfectly. Avoid direct sunlight, which can cause uneven drying and reduce bulb quality. Proper curing usually takes 2 to 4 weeks, depending on humidity and weather conditions. During this time, moisture slowly leaves the stems and outer layers, while the wrappers tighten around the bulbs. You'll know curing is complete when the neck feels completely dry, the roots become brittle, and the outer skins turn papery. Only then should you trim the roots and cut the stems, unless you're planning to braid soft neck garlic for storage. Now let's talk about storing your harvest. The ideal storage location is cool, dry, and well ventilated. Avoid storing garlic in sealed plastic bags, where trapped moisture encourages mold. Also avoid refrigerating whole bulbs. Cold temperatures can trigger premature sprouting. Once the garlic returns to room temperature, mesh bags, woven baskets, paper bags, or wooden crates all allow good airflow and help extend storage life. Different varieties store for different lengths of time. Soft-neck garlic often keeps for 8 to 10 months under good conditions. Hard-neck garlic usually stores for 4 to 6 months but rewards you with exceptional flavor. And large cloves. As you sort your harvest, save your biggest, healthiest bulbs for planting next season. This simple practice creates a powerful cycle of improvement. Year after year, selecting only the largest bulbs for seed gradually increases the average size of your future harvests. Many experienced gardeners have developed outstanding garlic simply through careful selection over several seasons. Before we finish, let's quickly review the biggest mistakes that prevent gardeners from growing giant garlic. Planting small cloves instead of the largest ones. Using compacted or poorly drained soil. Crowding plants too closely together. Allowing weeds to compete for nutrients. Overwatering late in the season. Applying too much nitrogen after bulbs begin forming. Leaving garlic scapes on hardneck varieties. Harvesting either too early or too late. Skipping the curing process before storage. Avoid these mistakes, and you're already ahead of many gardeners. Remember, giant garlic isn't the result of a single trick. It's the combination of healthy soil, quality planting stock, proper spacing, steady watering, timely feeding, good weed control, removing scapes, harvesting at the right moment, and curing the bulbs correctly. Each step builds on the previous one, and together they produce the kind of harvest that's both beautiful and rewarding. Imagine pulling back the soil to reveal large, firm bulbs packed with plump cloves, each one full of rich flavor and ready to last through the winter. That's exactly what these proven techniques can help you achieve. If you found this guide helpful, give the video a thumbs up and share it with another gardener who wants bigger garlic harvests. And don't forget to subscribe for more practical gardening tips, proven growing techniques, and simple ways to make every season more productive. Thanks for watching, and happy gardening.